Imagine a place where there are no laws, no police, no taxes, where the only rules are dictated by the desert. Slab City in California exists on the remnants of a military base abandoned by the government in the mid-20th century. Hundreds of people come here every year to escape society, deaths, and their past. They build homes from available materials, paint graffiti on concrete slabs, and live without bills or schedules. But freedom here comes at a price, and not everyone is willing to pay it. Slab City is called the last anarchist community in America. Here you can find retirees in RVs, artists creating surreal installations, and fugitives hiding from the law. In 2018, a National Geographic photographer spent a month here. He described this place as follows: a paradise for those who hate rules, and a hell for those seeking security. In the summer, temperatures reach 120 degrees Fahrenheit, and in the winter, they drop below zero at night. Water is drawn from contaminated wells, and food is brought in once a week from the nearest town 30 miles away. But the main danger is not from nature. In 2020, a man's body was found here with stab wounds. Locals whispered that he had stolen food from the wrong group. The police arrived 3 days later when the body had already begun to decompose. The investigation was closed due to a lack of witnesses. In 2022, a woman disappeared after an argument with a dealer selling drugs at the entrance to the camp. She was not searched for. In Slab City, only those who are ready to kill for a sip of water or a piece of bread survive. Salvation Mountain, an art installation made from old cars and painted slabs, has become a symbol of this place. Tourists take pictures in front of it, not noticing the syringes and empty shells lying underfoot. They leave before sunset, leading the town to those who call it home. But what awaits these people? Old age in a crumbling van, death from an overdose, or a bullet in the back for a pack of cigarettes? Slab City does not judge. It simply exists as a reminder of what happens when society turns its back on its outcasts. The devil in the nursery. In the United States of America, dozens of cases of cannibalism are recorded annually. Most of the criminals do not resemble the maniacs from horror movies. They are teachers, mathematicians, mothers of 3 children, war veterans. In 2012, in Miami, a homeless man ate a person's face in front of bystanders. In 2015, a student from New York stabbed a neighbor to, as he later said, try human flesh. Have you ever wondered what could turn a mother into a monster? In 2009, in the quiet Texas town of San Antonio, something happened that made even seasoned criminologists shudder. Adi Sanchez, a woman with the face of a neighbor who bakes pies for church holidays, took a kitchen knife and cut up the body of her 3-week-old son. She bit off the baby's fingers, swallowed part of his brain, and then tried to slit her own throat with a sharp blade. When the police burst into the house, they found her in a pool of blood, muttering the same words over and over. He made me do it. The court found her insane, but the question remained, what was it? A mental breakdown? The voice of God? Or true possession? Imagine that tomorrow morning you turn on the TV and see the face of a woman who was smiling yesterday, handing out candy to children on the street. Today she is accused of cannibalism. In a house that smelled of vanilla and fresh baking, they found swords, meat cleavers, and blood-stained sheets. Adi told investigators that the devil whispered to her, "Kill to save." But from what? From the poverty that was suffocating her family? From the loneliness that gnawed at her at night? Or from something that science cannot explain and religion fears to name? The story of Adi Sanchez is just the tip of the iceberg. Psychiatrists debate the Wendigo syndrome, an ancient myth turned diagnosis. But how do you distinguish a legend from a real threat that could be lurking behind the door of any home? Adi Sanchez is currently in a psychiatric clinic. Her story is not a horror movie script. It's a question that hangs in the air, like the smell of smoke after a fire. What do we know about those who make us coffee in the morning, fix cars in the garage, wave at school meetings? In Texas, people still believe that the devil walks the earth in the guise of ordinary people. Could he already be here among us, pretending to be someone we would never suspect? Rednecks. Laughter through tears. What do you really know about rednecks? If you believe Hollywood movies, they are rough men in cowboy hats who drink beer, swear, and roll around in the mud. But why do thousands of people every July throw toilet seats, jump into mud pits, and catch pig legs with their teeth? The Day of the American Rednecks is not just a strange holiday. It's a cry from those whom the country has preferred to forget. In the towns of Appalachia and the forgotten corners of Texas, the poverty rate exceeds 20%. There are no factories providing jobs, schools educating children, or hospitals saving lives. There are only landfills where rednecks work for $9 an hour, sorting through piles of trash. Their traditions have long become a way to survive in a world that has turned its back on them. Throwing toilet seats is a metaphor. We've been flushed away like waste, they say. Catching pig feet with teeth is a hint. We cling to life like the last piece of meat that someone is trying to take from us. Sociologists call these rituals an act of resistance, without hope for victory. In 2018, a survey was conducted in the state of Kentucky. 67% of rednecks stated that they feel abandoned by the government, like an old couch on the roadside. Their children move to big cities, their homes rot from dampness, their pride slowly turns into rage. But instead of rebelling, they laugh. A redneck's laughter is a weapon. When you've been called a hick, a reject, or a subhuman for years, you have two choices: explode or put on a clown nose and dance on the edge of the abyss. But what if real madness is hiding behind that clown nose? In 2020 in West Virginia, a group of rednecks set a police station on fire. They shouted, "We've had enough." Enough. The authorities blamed it on mental illness, but the locals know the truth. It was the cry of those who have nothing to lose but the dirt under their nails and toilet seats in their hands. Redneck Day is a mirror in which America sees its reflection. On one hand, there are funny competitions and crude humor. On the other, there are people who have been waiting for decades for the country to finally remember that they exist. What will happen if that never occurs? The answer already echoes in the crash of falling toilet seats and the hoarse laughter that drowns in the silence of abandoned mines. Water or death? Imagine waking up every morning with one thought: where to find water so you don't die today. For the Santee Sioux tribe, in Nebraska, this is not a metaphor. For 4 years, they have been drinking from puddles contaminated with bacteria and rusty barrels left over from military exercises. The Missouri River, full of clean water, flows 300 yards from their homes. But between them and the river is a wall of bureaucracy, indifference, and empty promises. In New York, a person uses as much water in a day as a Santee Sioux family uses in a week. While metropolises water lawns and fill pools, children in the reservation drink liquid that causes stomach cramps. Mothers boil it over fires, knowing it won't kill all the toxins. They silently watch as their little ones lose hair, break out in rashes, and grow weaker. In 2023, a 3-year-old girl from the Santee Sioux died of dehydration. Her last words were, "Mom, give me water." Officials have remained silent for years. When asked why there is no water supply in the reservation, the governor of Nebraska replied that it's a federal issue. Federal authorities talk about priority projects, but the money goes to roads in wealthy districts. The Santee Sioux are not alone. In Arizona, the Navajo tribe has been fighting for access to wells for decades. In South Dakota, children from the Pine Ridge Reservation drink water with arsenic. These are not coincidences. It's a system that erases some to fertilize others. What's scarier, the nuclear threat or the quiet genocide that no one notices? The Santee Sioux have become a symbol. But how many such symbols are needed for the country to wake up? While politicians argue, a child in Nebraska takes a sip of water that could be his last breath. But if you get into a car accident in America and don't know what to do next, where do you turn for help? Where can you find a competent lawyer? How do you get compensation if you don't have insurance? The company Accident America has helped secure $21 million in compensation for its clients. Here, you will definitely get answers to all your questions. Link in the description. The ghost town of Dudleytown. Towns die for different reasons. Some are consumed by progress, others are erased by wars. The name Dudleytown in Connecticut died because of a curse that many believe still lives among the ruins. Founded by the descendants of an English nobleman who was dethroned, the town became a place where tragedies occurred one after another. Residents perished in fires, hanged themselves from trees, and vanished into the forests without a trace. By the 1950s, the last families fled, leaving their homes to rot in the rain. Legends say that the land of Dudleytown is cursed. Those who dare to stay here overnight speak of voices whispering curses and figures stalking them in the dark. In 1999, a group of Yale students came to shoot a documentary film. They captured strange lights in the forest, and by morning, they found all the cameras broken and the film damaged. Skeptics claim that the curse is a fabrication. They point to natural causes for the town's demise, such as poor roads and lack of resources. But how can we explain that dozens of curious people have died here over the past 70 years? In 2012, a tourist from New York fell off a cliff, screaming that shadows with claws were chasing him. In 2019, a woman committed suicide, leaving a note saying, "They won't let me go." Today, Dudley Town is guarded by a private organization that prohibits entry. But this doesn't stop thrill seekers. They sneak through fences, risking their lives to prove that the curse is real. Maybe it's not a ghost town, but a mirror reflecting our fears. Fear of the unknown, of what we cannot control, of the truth that may be scarier than any legends. Drugs instead of dollars. What happens when a town is stripped of its future? It begins to devour itself. In the counties of Ohio and Kentucky, drugs have long replaced money. Methamphetamine is traded here for food, gasoline, even children's toys. Homes have been turned into labs, schools into dens, and streets into markets where life is worth less than a dose. The unemployment rate here exceeds 30%. Factories have closed, farms have gone bankrupt, and the youth are fleeing to the cities. Those who remain survive as best they can. One man, whose name you won't find. In the newspapers, he told how he became a dealer. "I needed to feed my daughter. The choice was simple: sell drugs or watch her die." The police know about it. They drive by because arresting everyone is impossible. And why bother? In a day, new dealers will take the place of the old ones. The roots of this catastrophe run deeper than they seem. In the 90s, pharmaceutical companies flooded rural areas with opiates, assuring doctors that the pills were not addictive. By 2010, a generation had formed that knew no life without pain and drugs. When the authorities finally restricted the sale of pills, people turned to heroin, and then to methamphetamine. Dealers became the only ones bringing any money into the small towns. In 2022 in Vaghi, a woman named Lisa died. She sold her last dose to buy her daughter sneakers for school. Her body was found in an abandoned barn. Neighbors said Lisa was kind but tired of fighting. Her story is not an exception. It's the rule. Now these places resemble a no-go zone. People walk around like shadows, and the air is filled with a chemical stench. But this is not a post-apocalyptic movie. This is the America that they prefer not to show on the news. Manly Hot Springs, the River of Death. Manly Hot Springs in Alaska. A settlement with a population of 80 people. It seemed like a place where time stopped before. October 26, 1984. On that day, Michael Silka, a local hunter, shot 6 people at the boat dock. On that day, Michael Silka, a local hunter, shot 6 people at the boat dock. His victims were random passers-by, tourists, a neighbor. Then he stole a boat, hid the bodies in the Tananol River, and tried to escape into the taiga. The police tracked him down by helicopter. Silka opened fire, injuring the pilot. An officer was killed in the shootout before the killer was taken down by a sniper's bullet. The investigation found no motive. Silka had no conflicts with the victims and did not suffer from mental disorders. The only clue was his diary, where a week before the murders he wrote, "It's too quiet here, need a loud end." After the tragedy, Manly Hot Springs became a ghost town. Half of the residents left, and the rest locked their doors. Tourists, who once came for the hot springs, now avoid this place. In 2005, a journalist from Anchorage tried to interview the survivors. The village elder told her, "We don't talk about it." Silka's shadow is still here. The story of Manly Hot Springs is not unique. In 2019, in Wyoming, a hunter killed 4 people at an abandoned ranch and then took his own life. His note contained one word: boredom. These cases make one wonder what happens when isolation and silence become unbearable. Modern rural residents increasingly choose the internet over neighbors, but loneliness only accumulates like steam in a kettle. And one day it explodes, erasing the line between a quiet evening and a bloody nightmare. The Christmas Massacre. Christmas is supposed to be a time of joy, but for the Lawson family in 1929, it became their last day of life. Charlie Lawson, the father of 7 children, bought everyone new outfits and invited a photographer to take a family portrait. In the photo, they smile as if tomorrow doesn't exist. The next day, Charlie took a gun and shot his wife, all the children, and then himself. No suicide note, no hint of a motive. Just blood on the Christmas table and the silence that still hangs over their home in North Carolina. The police searched for answers but found only new questions. Charlie had no debts, no feuds with neighbors, and showed no aggression. A week before the murder, he behaved like a loving father, fixing the fence and joking with the children. Psychiatrists suggested hidden schizophrenia, but the locals whispered about a curse. They recalled how a year before the tragedy, Charlie wandered through the forest, claiming he heard voices. Some said he sold his soul to the devil, others blamed poisonous mushrooms. The Lawson house still stands. It hasn't been demolished, burned down, or turned into a museum. Locals avoid it, claiming that at night shadows flicker in the windows and footsteps can be heard from under the floor. In 2005, a group of enthusiasts tried to spend the night there. They fled before dawn, swearing they saw silhouettes of children in Christmas dresses. The story of the Lawson family remains one of America's darkest mysteries. It makes one ponder how fragile the human mind is. What drives a person from absolute normalcy into the abyss of madness in just a few hours? Perhaps each of us is on the edge of this chasm, and the Christmas lights merely mask the darkness waiting for its moment. The Gainesville Murderers, a theater of horror. He didn't just kill, he staged performances where the victims were actors and death was the climax. Danny Rolling, known as the Gainesville Ripper, in August 1990, took the lives of 5 students in 5 days. He wasn't in a hurry. He savored it. He arranged each body in a pose meant to shock even seasoned forensic experts. He decapitated one victim, placing the head on a shelf opposite the torso. Another he tied with ropes in a prayerful pose, as if she were pleading for mercy from the heavens. The city of Gainesville, home to the University of Florida, turned into a trap. Students locked themselves in dormitories, parents demanded evacuations, and the police were at a loss. Rolling chose his victims randomly. He sneaked into homes through open windows, killed with a knife, and disappeared before dawn. His face wasn't caught on cameras, and the fingerprints didn't match any in the database. Authorities offered a reward of $200,000, but it only heightened the panic. The breakthrough came from the father of one of the victims. He noticed that the poses of the murdered mirrored scenes from poems that Rolling had written in prison. In 1987, he served time for assaulting his own father, and after his release, he vowed to surpass all the maniacs in history. He was arrested a month after the last murder. In court, he smiled, read his own poems, and said he wanted to leave a mark on eternity. Today, Gainesville tries to forget that August, but the scars remain. In the dormitories where the murders took place, there are still no takers to live there. Teachers whisper that footsteps are sometimes heard in the corridors, even though the buildings are empty. Rolling was executed in 2006, but his legacy lives on. It serves as a reminder that evil does not always come from outside. Sometimes it accumulates for years in those we consider normal, until one day it bursts out, like pus from an old wound. Mass murder in Piketon. The silence of the small town of Piketon, Ohio was shattered by gunfire on the night of April 22, 2016. 8 members of the Roden family were killed in 4 different homes located within a 2-mile radius. The perpetrators disabled surveillance cameras, wore masks, and acted with military precision. The victims included a grandmother, parents, 3 children, and 2 teenagers. The youngest was 10 years old. The killers took nothing but lives. The investigation revealed that the massacre was the culmination of a years-long dispute between the Roden and Wagner families over the custody of a child. Christopher Wagner Jr., the father of the girl being raised by the Rodens, planned the revenge with his brothers and mother. They practiced shooting, studied the victims' schedules, and even conducted rehearsals of the attack. On the day of the murders, they split into groups to synchronize the attacks. The police found Christopher's diary, where he wrote that he would cleanse the earth of filth. Piketon, where everyone knew each other by face, couldn't believe that neighbors had been planning a mass murder for years. The local priest who conducted the funerals said that this was a war without rules in the heart of America. The court sentenced the Wagners to life imprisonment, but questions remained. How did a family dispute turn into a massacre? Why did no one notice that an arsenal of weapons was stored in the neighbor's garage? Now the Roden homes have been demolished, leaving a vacant lot overgrown with weeds. The residents of Piketon avoid this place, especially at night. They say sometimes the cries of children can be heard there, although no one dares to check. The story of Piketon became a lesson that no one learned. In 2023, a similar scenario repeated in Iowa. A man killed 6 relatives over an inheritance dispute. It seems America has forgotten that family can be not only a support but also a ticking time bomb.